Am I the a-hole? I didn't attend my son's wedding. I instead spent the evening with his ex-wife. Quick backstory. After graduating high school, my son moved 3 states away for college. Then at 19, he married a girl he met. I tried convincing him to wait because I personally felt he was too immature. But they both dropped out and moved back here to his hometown. At 20, they had their first child, a beautiful little girl. 16 months later, my daughter-in-law gave birth to their second child, a little boy. After the first baby, my wife and I noticed our daughter-in-law wasn't happy. We both thought it was PPD related. Just after the second arrived, my son and his wife separated. She would bring the kids over for a visit. It was then she began unloading on us. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but considering I know my son, I believed her. I sat my son down numerous times to speak with him regarding his marriage, and he refused to take responsibility, blamed her for everything even when I directly pointed out where he was the sole problem. They got into counseling. For a year, things were okay on the surface, but eventually our daughter-in-law filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. My son had forced his then-wife to become a permanent stay-at-home mom at the birth of their first child. She, of course, had no other family or friends here, and she knew no one aside from us. She had nowhere to go with 2 small children, so unbeknownst to our son, my wife and I helped her financially and got her an apartment. Before the divorce was even finalized, we received a wedding invitation. I made it clear to my son that I would not be attending and they would not have my blessing. His mother told him she would see to it that I would attend, but I stayed consistent in my decision. I also asked him not to bring his fiancée around our house out of respect for the mother of his children. The wedding happened on February 11, and the night before, my wife gave me the final push. I still did not attend. Our daughter also did not attend for the same reasons. My wife picked up our grandkids, got them dressed, and attended the wedding, while my daughter and I decided to spend the evening with his ex. I couldn't imagine her sitting alone while her kids attended their father's wedding. She was taken aback that I didn't end up attending his wedding. We took her out to distract her mind. I just wanted her to know she'll always be considered family to us. My daughter also made a joke they can drop the in-law status and just be sisters now. She was very tearfully grateful, and I realized just how badly she needed our support, and specifically on that night. The next morning, my son called to tell me how much of a horrible father I am for not attending his wedding. Few days later, he caught wind that I spent the wedding evening with his ex, and that he said that was the ultimate form of betrayal. And further, myself and his sister would have to earn a relationship with him on his terms only. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Our daughter-in-law filed for divorce. My son 3 days later was on Facebook announcing his new girlfriend. A month later, they were engaged. Ew. The best children are the ones you choose. My ex posted about his new girlfriend on Facebook before I had the chance to file. But we separated because of his cheating. It's nice that he was fired soon after, and now the affair partner is financially supporting him. Not the a-hole. This is funny. Do you have to earn a relationship on his terms? I think he needs to check his offering. He's way overvaluing what he brings to the table. Honestly though, why would anyone care to earn a relationship with someone who clearly puts no value on the relationships he already had? He didn't care when Opie said from the get-go he wouldn't attend, because he just assumed he would get his way in the end. The only relationship this guy values is the relationship with that guy in the mirror. Opie, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It sounds like you're a reasonable parent who acknowledges when your kid is being an idiot. I don't see anything wrong with you choosing to support the mother of your grandchildren, who he seems to have left in a bad spot. Too many parents don't want to hold their children accountable. I'm glad this father does. My father was abusive, and his parents always sided with him and told me to just deal with it. Whenever he did something, they just swept it under the rug. They didn't want to believe their son could be such an a-hole, despite seeing him blow up themselves. So they would rather live in denial. Next story. Am I the a-hole for taking legal action against my sister-in-law for damage she did to my dad's property? My 24 female dad is pretty well off and owns multiple properties in both the country I live in as well as back in his home country. Because of this, and the fact that my husband and I both have good careers, my sister-in-law has always had a snobby attitude towards us and my side of the family, and tries to mooch off of us at any chance she gets. When we go out to eat with my husband's side of the family, we're expected to pay. Christmas and birthday, his side of the family expects good gifts, etc. His sister is currently on her third marriage and has 3 children, all under the age of 10. Her and her husband were looking for a place to host their wedding and approached me about using one of my dad's properties to host it. I was very hesitant at first to help her because of the treatment she has given me in the past, but it's my dad's property after all, so I contacted him to ask him about it. He said it's my call, but told me to 1. Have them sign some type of agreement stating that if any damage is done to the house, they are liable. 2. They are going to be charged a reasonable fee to use the house. We both agreed on the $1,500, which I believe is very reasonable considering this is a massive house. I told sister-in-law and her husband about this. They asked about a family discount, and I told them this was a family discount, and take it or leave it. They signed the agreement and paid. Fast forward 2 days after the wedding, I went over to the house. House is a complete mess. Bed sheets are stained, a vase destroyed, alcohol bottles floating in the pool, etc. I contact my dad to tell him. He tells me to assess the damage and see how much it is. It was around $1,000 worth of damage. My dad contacts my sister-in-law himself and explains to her the damage and what she owes him. She loses her mind and starts going off about how this is BS. We're family. She shouldn't even be charged in the first place. We're so well off we can happily afford to pay for the damages. If she gives him that money, they won't be able to afford to go on a honeymoon, etc., etc. She then calls me up to harass me and starts calling me a witch who thinks she's too good for everyone and says, it's a wedding, what do you expect? Sorry, my people know how to have a good time. My dad gives her 30 days to pay and she was notified about this. 30 days comes and no payment. So my dad got his lawyer to contact sister-in-law explaining how she's being taken to court for not paying. Her and my mother-in-law have been contacting my husband nonstop, trying to get him to get her the money. He refuses because he agrees that what she did was irresponsible and wrong. I had to block mother-in-law and sister-in-law after they sent me nasty messages and even tried to show up at my house to talk to me. I feel bad that my husband's relationship with his mom and sister is going to be ruined over $1,000. But I feel like what she did was wrong and she wasn't even sorry about it. Edit. I should also add that my sister-in-law and her husband were given a key to the house to use it and lock it up when they were leaving it. The key was returned to me at my house. The next day, I went over to the house, which is when I found the damage. So they left the house in the condition for me to see with no care in the world. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law fooled around and she found out. Good life lesson for her. Sucks for your husband, but it also shows him how little regard his family has for him. Yep, if sister-in-law had rented a public venue, would she expect them not to come after her if she left it in this condition? It makes it even worse that it was family. They were kind enough to let her use it at a heavily discounted rate, and she had so little respect for them that she left it trashed. She deserves everything she's getting right now. She'd probably expect OP's family to pay for damages to a different venue too. Not the a-hole. Honestly, this might be quite a blessing for your husband. His mother and sister are horrible people. They caused actual damages and have insulted you, your father and your husband, for simply asking them to be responsible for themselves. If they choose to step out of his life over this, so much the better. I'd like an update in the future. Not the a-hole. The thing I'm wondering is that the sister-in-law didn't even invite the OP or her dad to this wedding? That's rude in itself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving out and causing my engaged roommates to struggle with paying for the wedding? I, 32, female, have known Kara, 32, female, since 1995. In November 2021, she asked me to move in with her fiancé male 30 and her brother male 40. My apartment wanted to raise my rent and they were saving for a wedding, so moving in would help each other out. I wasn't on a lease because the landlord would probably up the rent. I noticed after moving in that they'd spent their money on things they never really used. Purses, shoes, random fandom decor, and they would go out to eat a lot. Out-of-state vacations were every 2 to 3 months. I wasn't allowed to have people over. 3 months in, I wanted to bring over my boyfriend at a time and it caused a huge argument. After we broke up, she was adamant that no one else was allowed to come over. She would go in my room when I wasn't there. In June, she started to call it her room, that I was renting so she can do whatever she wants. I changed the lock on the door without telling her and closed the door just to see what would happen. I came home to the door being open and the frame being cracked because I must have accidentally locked myself out. In July, the water heater blew up and caused a flood. Within the next few days, everyone got sick. When I asked her to get it checked for mold, she refused. Luckily, she didn't have to pay anything because the landlord covered fixing the water heater. She was relieved that she could still go on her California vacation, but everyone in the house kept getting sick every couple of weeks. I purposely avoided the house so it didn't affect me quite as much as it used to when I was constantly there. In November 2022, I came home and found black mold literally growing on the bathroom ceiling in different spots. I confronted her about it multiple times and she said it's calcium buildup. In December, they finally picked out a wedding date and venue. His parents told them that instead of paying for the whole thing like they originally said they would only be paying for half because she wanted an elegant look. Her parents are both deceased, so it's up to the couple to pay for the other half. My friend started freaking out because they hadn't saved the entire year. In early January, my brother's divorce was finalized and he got a house. He asked me if I'd like to rent out a room as he'd rarely be home and is charging me next to nothing. It's honestly an offer I couldn't refuse. So I took them out to eat in public and told them I paid them for February's rent, even though I had my stuff moved out before the end of January. They were shocked and went silent until last week when I was flooded with texts. Apparently, I'm completely screwing them over. They said they're going to change the venue and she might have to return her $1,500 dress. They wanted me to know about how badly I screwed them over. She asked if I could spot her some money every now and then to help make up for my betrayal. But to be honest, I'm over this friendship. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Nope, not the a-hole. Clearly and unequivocally. It's not even just a money issue, it's a full and toxic environment issue, literally and figuratively. God, they sound exhausting. There was nothing reasonable or justifiable about how they treated Opie, like a clueless child versus a grown adult for Pete's sake. Glad she got the hell out of there. Not the a-hole, you should have moved out sooner. Yeah, that February rant was totally unnecessary in this context, because Kara's rude and selfish and controlling AF. Absolutely not the a-hole. There was mold in the apartment that your so-called friend was refusing to take care of. Plus, you weren't allowed to have guests and your privacy wasn't being respected. Moving out was a smart thing to do. It's clear that Kara only asked you to move in with her so she could use your rent to live a more comfortable lifestyle. Think about it. If they asked you to move in so they could save up for their wedding, why did they freak out when they learned his parents were only going to pay half the costs? After a year of having a roommate, they should have had a good portion of money saved up. You don't owe her anything. She should have been more a responsible adult and a much better friend. It would probably be best to end a friendship. Last story. Am I the a-hole for buying my girlfriend's sister a car? About 4 years ago, my girlfriend and her younger sister had a huge falling out. I don't know what about because my girlfriend never went into any specifics, and that was before I even met her, but they haven't spoken to each other since. I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years. About a year ago, her sister reached out to me because she wanted me to persuade my girlfriend into meeting with her because she wanted to reconnect. But when I told my girlfriend, she said she never wants to see her. 2 weeks ago, her sister messaged me again and asked me if she could borrow $2,000 from me because she needed to buy a new car, and she said she'd pay me back monthly. I told her that I can't just borrow her money because I don't know her, and I don't know if she's actually gonna use it to buy a car. But I told her that if she found a car for sale she wants, I can go and see it with her and pay for it. So a couple days ago, I met up with her, and I paid just over $2,000 for a car. This was the first that I actually met her in person. I told her she could just pay me back whenever. I honestly just felt a bit sorry for her. I could tell she genuinely wants to reconnect with my girlfriend, but she just refuses. Her sister also didn't tell me any specifics about their falling out, but that it had to do with my girlfriend's old boyfriend and how my girlfriend basically accused her of doing something she didn't do. I didn't press her for anything specific because I could tell she didn't want to talk about it. Afterwards, I told my girlfriend about it and she got furious at me. She said I shouldn't have bought her a car, and she claims I betrayed her trust by going behind her back. We argued about it for a while and, well, since then she barely speaks to me. But I honestly don't think I did anything wrong, especially since we don't share finances. So I spent my own money and not hers. So was I the a-hole? I don't know if ages are relevant here, but I'm 27, my girlfriend is 25, and her sister is 19. You're the a-hole. Boundaries, dude. You need a refresher. You, as a 27-year-old man, should not be going behind your girlfriend's back and contacting her estranged teen sister, let alone buying her a car. Creepy, inappropriate, and downright weird as hell. It is a huge red flag, and I would just dump such a boyfriend. Apparently, you learned that it had something to do with a boy, and you honestly ask if you are the a-hole? This just screams that OP is the kind of person to say family's family no matter what they've done to you. Her sister also didn't tell me any specifics about their falling out, but that it had to do with my girlfriend's old boyfriend and how my girlfriend basically accused her of doing something she didn't do. If this is your first time meeting her, how do you even know she didn't do whatever she's been accused of? Why would you believe the sister you've never met over your own partner? It is honestly a terrible idea to drop $2,000 for a stranger because they are vaguely pseudo-family, even before you get the technically legal teenager of your preferred gender or girlfriend's estranged sister. At that point, whether or not she did what girlfriend accused her of is an interesting but immaterial question. You're the a-hole, but can I have a car too? You know me just as well, and I really want one. I can provide a sob story too if that helps. I am also an estranged sibling of your girlfriend. I also need $2,000 for a car. DM me for details. Only if you answer 3 questions first. Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care if my half-siblings feel left out because it's not my mom's job to mother them? My parents were married and had me 16 female and my brother 18 male. My dad had an affair with Kate, and mom and him divorced. Ellie, 11 female, was the result of the affair, and Tommy, 9 male, was born when Dad married Kate. A year later, Kate died. My dad's family rallied around my half-siblings and tried to make up for the loss of their mother. Meanwhile, my mom shared custody of me and my brother with my dad. He had asked her to include Ellie and Tommy in her life after Kate died, and even told my brother and I a few times that they would be coming to mom's with us, and should be their mom now too. Mom never did take Ellie or Tommy into her home. I don't even think she's ever interacted with them. When I look back at moments where everyone was present, she was always one side with her family, and Dad was another with his and my half-siblings. Ellie and Tommy, as they have gotten older, have expressed all the emotions you might when you don't have a mom, but you sometimes share a home with kids who do. They get jealous, sad, frustrated. They have even asked for us to share mom with them. They have wanted to come along when they hear mom is taking us on vacation. They have wanted us all to spend Christmas together too. All kinds of stuff. They also have just Dad's side of the family, since none of Kate's wants to be in their lives. But we have both sets of grandparents and aunts and uncles involved in our lives. A few times over the years, Dad, or my grandma or uncle, have asked me if I don't dislike that my mom wouldn't open her heart to kids who are part of my family. I always said no because they are not her kids, and so it doesn't make sense to me that she would. My dad wanted to try and get my half-siblings' wish to come true for a Christmas, where we're all together, which would include my brother and I and our mom. Mom said no. She did not engage with him beyond her no. Ellie and Dad then tried to get me to talk Mom around, and I said no, and I told them I did not want to talk her around. Ellie got upset hearing that and left. Dad and my grandparents then cornered me later and asked me how can I say that when I know Ellie and Tommy feel left out and that they crave mothering. I told them I don't care if they feel left out, because it's not my mom's job to mother them, and I would never expect her to do it. And since one can't be fixed without the other thing happening, as in them feeling left out can't be fixed unless they feel like they now have a mom in my mom, then I realized it's not going to happen. They told me my mom could, and should, have love for them as her children's siblings. I told them Dad should have thought about that before he cheated on her and got another woman pregnant while he was still married to Mom. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I think the only a-holes are your father and any family member who put into those kids' heads when they are only 11 and 9 that your mother should have accepted and loved them as they were her own. I get you saying it to them, but you gotta understand that those kids have been brainwashed to believe your mother owed them something. Those kids need therapy and to be removed from your father's care because he's doing a lot of damage with his BS. I don't think either of those things will happen since my dad is the only parent they have left. Yeah, it's pretty sad that your dad is trying to absolve himself of guilt and responsibility by pushing a role onto your mom that she has no business in. I don't think he feels guilty. I'd say he doesn't see women as people, just caricatures of wife, mother, etc. That's why he doesn't understand that a woman he made a vow to, then burned and abandoned, wants nothing to do with helping him clean up the life he left her to have. In his mind, women take care of children and sad, desperate men. So now that his mistress/second wife died, he thinks his first wife should feel enough pity or compassion or whatever to take care of them all. But that's not how humans work. And until he sees her as a human with complex emotions, he will never stop trying the issue. That would require therapy, and OP has said that probably won't happen, so this will most likely continue. Not the whole OP. Therapy might be a good choice for you if you haven't already. This is a lot of weird and inappropriate pressure on you, and you deserve to have help navigating it. Not the whole. As much as I feel sorry for the kids who have no fault, they are the result of their father's affair. Your mom shouldn't be pressured to mother them precisely because they are the result of the affair. If your dad is so desperate for them to have mom, he should remarry. Affair or not, is wackadoo to think that your ex should somehow mother the children that you fathered with another woman. Even if they divorced amicably and then he met the mother of his other kids, it would still be a wild request. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad it's too late? My dad met his wife when I was 4. They became friends because they were single parents. Dad having lost his wife/my mom, and his wife because she had gone through a nasty divorce and it left her struggling. 2 years later, they became a couple and started introducing both sets of kids. It was not a good transition. His wife's kids were close and wanted nothing to do with the new stepbrother. But we were often pushed to interact and I would be left on the outside. Sometimes they would run away from me and leave me behind in places, and other times they would just ignore my existence completely. It was tough. I often felt like I had nobody. Dad and his wife both knew, and I had to be told that it would be okay, but that was it. There were times her kids would tease me for having no mom, and would tell me nobody wanted me, and I should run away. I was never accepted into their sibling group, and they moved out and eventually just stopped talking to me at all. I'm 19 now, and my girlfriend and I have a 6-month-old daughter. My dad apparently did not like that they were not willing to interact with my daughter, did not want to include her, and had not told their kids about their new cousin. He told his wife it bothered him and about her being left out. They argued and he moved out. He then came to me to tell me what happened, and I told him it was too late for that. That he knew they treated me that way, but he'd rather have someone in his bed. I asked him if he really thought I'd find it amazing that he'd do that now, when he didn't do it when I needed him. I said I would never have exposed my daughter to them, so he could have not blown up his marriage, and he called me ungrateful. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They weren't there to support you emotionally, and apparently were abusive, so extremely entitled for them to expect and demand attention. He flat out told you he chose the new wife to be in his bed over you, now he gets to lay in the mess he made. Not the a-hole. The cynical side of my brain thinks your dad was already thinking of leaving them and thought this was the perfect excuse to do so and win brownie points with you at the same time. I find it very doubtful that he just suddenly grew a conscience about the treatment you have received for decades. Good on you for having a spine and calling him out on his behavior. My cynical side concurs and adds that it's likely because he only really realized after the divorce that his stepchildren never really cared for him either. After they told him to GTFO because it's not their kid's grandfather after he tried to visit. Strong vibes of doing the bare minimum while expecting effusions of gratitude here. Your dad never tried to create a smooth transition towards blended family. He knew how abandoned and alone you felt. He let the situation go on because what mattered most was not being single anymore, not your well-being and feeling accepted and loved in your own home, which is basically a child's only/principal safe space. He can't go Pikachu face when the step-siblings, who were never interested in you, are still not interested in you or in your kid. And he can't go Pikachu face because you don't care that, now that you're an adult, that you don't care either about them. Your dad sounds so self-centered. I wouldn't be surprised to learn that his relationship with your stepmother was not going well, and he just decided to make it implode in a way that makes him look good and would make you gain his respect, or something. Because what was the point of moving out over an issue between grown children? Right now. But back when the relationship was new and going well, it did not matter that your step-siblings were casting you out. Now he's expecting to be hailed as a hero? Another brilliant case of fool around and find out. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my sister's child-free wedding? My sister is getting married next month to my best friend. She always wanted a nice snow wedding in the cabins we used to go to when we were in school. Everything was going fine until she told me it was a child-free wedding. Now, that would be fine with my wife and I, because we would just drop off my son and daughter at my wife's parents or with their godparents. But my sister had asked them to be the ring bearer and the flower girl. Apparently, they want the kids to perform their duties at the wedding, but then not attend the reception. That means either my wife or I will have to be there with them alone in the cabin while everyone is partying it up. Oh, but wait, I'm the best man and will be conducting the reception, so it's just going to be my wife. What about food? My mom will give my wife 20 minutes to come in, grab some plates with food and come back because the mother of the bride can't be missing for too long. So, they expect me to abandon my wife with our kids who are under the age of 7 in a tiny cabin that is not child-proof, where the source of heat is a fireplace and there is barely any cell signal. This is the day after driving for 7 hours with said kids. Not only do I think this is not a safe idea, considering it would be the middle of winter. My wife has never been to these cabins. It's not just the lack of ability to properly communicate, but also I think it's incredibly rude to invite someone to a destination wedding where they are not allowed to attend a wedding. Although my wife says she can manage, as she's really gullible sometimes and is a little bit of a people pleaser, I refuse. She's not being treated like a guest, but as the babysitter for the ring bearer and flower girl. I try to talk to my sister and the a-hole I call my best friend, who always preaches about being there for friends, loyalty and whatnot, but they are not conceding or willing to compromise. I ask if my kids could attend until the toasts, games and food. Then all 4 of us would retire to the cabin and let them party. No. If we could go completely child-free and leave the kids behind. No. If I just attend a wedding and retire to the cabin after the wedding. No. My sister is against all of these ideas while the a-hole has taken a temporary vow of silence. So, I'm angry and said I'm not coming, which in turn began the messages and calls from everyone. My family, the groom's family, and their/our friends. My wife has openly said that she can manage this, but I know that's just to keep the peace. My kids are also upset, because before asking us, my sister and the a-hole asked them first to participate in the wedding, and they were really excited because they're close with both of them. With all these calls and messages, I feel I'm going crazy, and maybe I'm the a-hole instead. So, am I? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If she wants child-free, then she does not need your kids as props. As a parent, you have the right to not attend a child-free wedding without guilt. Tell her she should hire some local children for the gig. I am so confused by the request. Aren't most child-free weddings child-free? So the ceremony goes off without a hitch. Who requires children as props for the ceremony and then ban them from the reception? If these children can be trusted with the key roles in the wedding, why not trust that they can behave for the reception? Or at least a part of it? She's not being treated like a guest, but as the babysitter for the ring bearer and a flower girl. You are an awesome husband. I like where this is headed. When it comes to Mr. A-hole and Mrs. A-hole-to-be, they want to bestow the honor of making you their best man. But unfortunately, that honor comes at a hefty price. In order to fulfill your duties, you'll have to alienate your family for the reception. So, of course, it's totally reasonable and absolutely 100% expected of you to tell your wife and kids to go screw themselves while you're living it up to their reception. Totally sarcasm, by the way. You asked for compromises and they told you no. You even asked to leave after the ceremony. They said no. They left you with no options but to tell them, congratulations, you are officially out of luck. If this was a test to prove to your sister and her fiancé who your loyalty was with, you passed. You showed them that your family comes first, and you won't be throwing them to the wolves while you cower to the pack. Congratulations, and a toast to Mr. and Mrs. A-hole. May they have a lonely and miserable future ahead of both of them. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother off when he berated my daughter for not changing her cousin's diaper? Context. I moved in with my brother after my divorce 3 months ago and brought my 18-year-old daughter with me. My brother and his girlfriend have a 9-month-old daughter, my niece. This happened this past Friday. My brother's girlfriend was on a shift. She's a nurse and my brother was in a work-from-home meeting. I was out of the house for hours while he was watching the baby via nanny cam, and apparently she needed a diaper change, but he was so busy. He texted my daughter asking if she'd go in and quickly change her cousin's diaper, but she refused. She told me that she had her reasons. 1. She doesn't feel comfortable around babies. And 2. She was already late for her friend's birthday party. Her other friend and brother were waiting on her outside. My brother insisted, but she refused, which made him cut the meeting and getting kicked out of it. My daughter was out of the house at that point. I got home and there was a huge argument. I found my brother berating my daughter for not helping with her baby cousin and doing him this small one-time favor, and now he got kicked out of his meeting. My daughter was crying, so I told my brother off and said that his daughter is his and his girlfriend's responsibility, and he shouldn't rely on my daughter for her care. He explained how it was just a one-time favor, and how he's been very supportive of us since I divorced my ex. But I told him that is not an excuse to force my daughter to do what she didn't feel comfortable with. His girlfriend got involved and called me an ungrateful a-hole and told us we have 2 weeks to move out. I tried to speak to my brother about his girlfriend's decision, but he shut me off saying I was in the wrong for telling him off, instead of holding my daughter accountable for the lack of support. Your brother is responsible for taking care of his daughter. OP is responsible for providing housing for himself and his daughter. When someone is doing you a big favor, it might be wise to reciprocate with small favors. My grandma used to say with regard to arguments with family, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Sometimes those things don't coincide. I say something similar regarding driving. Do you want to be right or do you want to be hit? Your daughter does not owe your brother child care services. But on the flip side, your brother does not owe you and your daughter room and board. So no a-holes technically, but it's your own fault for getting kicked out. The brother felt entitled to verbally mistreat the 18-year-old niece/daughter. I object for the no a-holes ruling. Brother is 1000% the a-hole for only planning to watch his infant daughter via nanny cam, and not making prior arrangements with his niece to be hands-on during his meeting. It's his responsibility to make arrangements for his infant. I would also be extremely upset if I came home to find my adult brother berating his 18-year-old niece for any reason, but especially this reason. The verbal attack would not fly with me. Not the a-hole, but it's definitely time to move out. Everyone sucks here. I mean, they both sound incredibly stressed, and I think there's more to this story than you let on, considering this argument led to them giving you 2 weeks' notice to get out. Perhaps neither of you have been helping or contributing for months, and this was an easily solvable problem that would have just helped them. They're helping you after all. I agree with everything in this reply except the judgment. OP was the a-hole here. My wife and I both work from home, and sometimes it's really hard to get away. It was a simple favor. Nothing wrong with the ask your brother made. You and your daughter need to step up to the kindness this family's giving you. Oh wait, it's too late.
First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin what our family were saying about his wife and causing him to cut everyone off financially? My uncle had a kid from an affair who he abandoned to the system. My grandmother found out when he was 12 and took him in. This was a huge scandal, not only our family but also our social circle, because everyone is all about appearances and protecting the family legacy. If I'm being honest, my family weren't very nice about my cousin. I remember when he first came to live with our grandparents, my own mother told me not to socialize with him too much in front of outsiders so he doesn't ruin my reputation. I was 8. When he graduated, the family didn't want him involved in the family business because of his parentage and also because he was pretty closed off and was only close to our grandparents and no one else in the family. So our grandfather gave him some money to start something of his own. The family business hasn't been doing well for a long time, but my cousin is doing better than ever. Despite everything, he's been financially helping all of us for a few years now. Recently, our grandparents told everyone he was married and expecting a baby. This was a huge shock to the family. Our grandfather admitted he suspects our cousin got the woman pregnant by mistake and chose to do the right thing based on a few conversations he had with him before he announced his marriage. My family immediately cyber-talked his wife, and they said some awful things about her, and everyone was complaining that he could have done so much better. My dad was even encouraging everyone to make things hell for her so she leaves. I told my cousin what they said. I'd like to say I did it for selfless reasons, but I didn't. He's paying for my tuition after my parents refused to help since I dropped out the first time. And based on his personality, I doubt he's going to be very forgiving once they started this crusade against his pregnant wife. Well, he cut everyone off except me and our grandparents. He never told anyone it was me, but since everyone is floundering trying to figure out what they're going to do now and I'm not, it didn't take much for them to figure out I was the snitch. Now, my family are angry at me and calling me all sorts of names. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They never accepted him as a family member. If they never accepted him, why do they deserve his help? They don't. They were mooching off him and only wanted his money. They didn't care about treating him like family. You were right to let him know exactly how they felt about him and his pregnant wife. You seem to actually care and accept him as family, so it's not selfish to let him know. He may be helping you with college, but you care and treat him well. You have accepted him as family. Good job. Not the a-hole. The biggest and best indicator that you're not the a-hole is precisely because what you said below. Now, my family are angry at me and calling me all sorts of names. Your family is messed up, so what they think is wrong is most certainly what's right and decent. Not the a-hole. Stick with the grandparents who've proven they'll stand by their grandchildren, like they did with their cousin. And your cousin who has done things out of the kindness of his heart. These people have been nothing but awful. Get the hell out of your parents' sphere of influence as soon as you can. Not the a-hole. Never piss off the one holding purse strings. Even if your motive were less than pure, you did the right thing to let him know what they say behind his back. Another saying I heard was, never bite the hand that feeds you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother-in-law to hold my baby, his nephew, just for a bit while I was folding laundry and traumatizing my brother-in-law? I honestly didn't know the reason why he was so reluctant. This happened a few days ago. So, while I, 25 female, was around 6 months pregnant, my husband, 25 male, was unfortunately furloughed from his job, so we moved into his brother's, 38 male, house. His brother's fairly well off, and I'm not exactly sure what he does for a living, but he's mostly just in his office from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., so I don't really interact with him. I do appreciate that he let us move in while we were in a tight spot. When we moved in, he made it a hard rule that I will have nothing to do with the baby, so don't expect anything from me. But otherwise, y'all can have free reign of the house. That was 5 months ago. Brother-in-law actually doesn't really interact with any of his nieces or nephews. Sister-in-law's kids, 4 of them all under 10, as my husband has told me. Though he does send them gifts for birthdays and stuff, but definitely not an involved uncle. Skip to now, we have a beautiful baby boy. And brother-in-law stayed true to his words of not wanting anything to do with his nephew, and he just mostly stays in his office. My husband thankfully landed a job in the same field as his last job about a week ago. And even better, he's able to work from home. So we're set to move when we can save up a little more, and he was working when everything went down. Yesterday, while I was folding laundry, my son was getting fuzzy and wanted to be held, and at that moment my brother-in-law came out of his office to grab something. I asked him if he could just quickly hold his nephew while I finished up folding laundry. Casually just says, "Nah, I'm good," and started to walk away. I admit I got really freaking mad at that point. Like he can't even help for a minute while I finish up folding laundry? So I picked up my son and walked over to brother-in-law and placed him in his hands and said, "Just help out. It's just a baby. It won't kill you or anything." My yelling upset my son, so he started crying. He handed me back my child and very coldly says, "I told you, I'm good." And then he quickly retreated to his office. I was left really confused. Then my husband came out of the room he was working in to see what all the commotion was about. I explained what happened, and he just starts freaking out and said I shouldn't have done that. And he goes off to talk to his brother. My husband is now demanding I apologize to brother-in-law and explained something no one has ever told me. Apparently, brother-in-law had a wife 10 years ago who passed during childbirth, and the child later passed due to other complications, and brother-in-law never really got over it. My heart sank. I asked why I was never told this, and all he said is, "My brother's a very private guy, and it wasn't any of your business knowing his past. Please just apologize to him." But I wasn't able to. He has yet to come out of his office or room, and my husband just leaves food at brother-in-law's door. So I want some outside perspective. Am I the a-hole for forcing my brother-in-law to hold his nephew but accidentally opened a pretty bad scar? Now for the top comments. Laughing my butt off. OP. Isn't homeless because brother-in-law was being kind and gracious. Brother-in-law. I just have one boundary. Keep your baby away from me. OP. Gets busy and forces brother-in-law to hold the baby. Husband. You should apologize for breaking boundaries and picking fights with a man who is keeping a roof over our heads. OP. Shocked Pikachu face. Yeah, you're the a-hole. Not everyone feels comfortable with kids. You already got a freaking house from the guy. You owe him, not the other way around. This is some Greek mythology gourmet stuff. Like, did OP never read the legends and myths? When a dude does something benevolent with a strange yet non-harmful boundary, you keep that boundary. No means no. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. He said no. No means no. Yes, you're a giant a-hole for bullying a grown man into doing what you wanted. It doesn't even matter why I didn't want to hold your baby, but it does make it that much worse. You owe him a very sincere apology. They literally live in the guy's house, but still thinks it's okay to cross the one boundary he had. You're the a-hole. No means no. He does not mean no, but this one time I'll make an exception, lols. You don't need to know the reason why. You just needed to respect his one house rule. He was kind enough to let you stay there while you and your hubby got back on your feet, and he only had one thing he asked of you, and you still couldn't follow through with that. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my future sister-in-law that I won't be attending her child-free wedding, causing a lot of my other family members to drop out as well? My future sister-in-law is marrying my brother next summer, and they are planning to have a child-free wedding. I have about 3 other sisters and we all have kids, as do most of my cousins at this point. Our family is kinda spread out over the country, and my brother/sister-in-law's wedding is out of the state for most of us. Once I found out they wanted to make it child-free, I began to lose interest in going to the wedding. I don't want to be away from my kids for a couple of days, and it is just a hassle to find them living arrangements for when my husband and I are gone, especially since most of our adult family members will be at the wedding. We'd have to leave the kids with some friends. However, I get that it is her wedding and her decision, so I just declined to go, stating that I don't want to leave my kids alone without any family to watch them. After I dropped out, my other sisters got the courage to drop out as well, as they also have toddlers they didn't want to leave behind for a couple of days. Then, my cousins began declining to come as well. Now, it has become a huge deal in the family and caused a lot of drama. My brother has called me and yelled at me, saying that I was the one who caused all the problems. I was firm when I told him I wasn't going to his wedding unless I could bring my kids, and that all our sisters/cousins pretty much felt the same way. My parents, who are paying for half of their wedding, are also pissed that so many family members on our side aren't coming. They were already somewhat against the idea of a child-free wedding in the first place, and have now started pressuring sister-in-law to not make it child-free. My sister-in-law refuses to meet in the middle, and says the wedding will remain child-free, but she's also mad at all of us for not coming. She also still expects my parents to help pay for it, which I doubt they'll do at this point, lol. I'm fine with her having a child-free wedding. I just don't want to be part of it if it means being away from my kids for days. Am I the a-hole? Edit. People keep asking why I'm mostly talking about my sister-in-law and not my brother in the post. I know for a fact my brother was okay with having kids at the wedding. It's the norm in our family, and he loves his nieces/nephews. It's my sister-in-law who wants this to be a child-free thing against the wishes of like 95% of our family and still have my parents foot the bill. My brother's just supporting her to make her happy. Edit. She has an entire 4-day itinerary planned with like 6 events that she expects to all be child-free. Are all of us with toddlers and kids supposed to swing back and forth from hiding our kids in hotels with random sitters to all the wedding activities just to keep my psycho sister-in-law happy? And then pay for it because she sure as hell won't, since our kids are our problems, as she stated to my face. You're the a-hole because you don't seem to know what meet in the middle means. She wants her wedding to be child-free. You want her wedding to not be child-free. You think she won't meet in the middle because she's not changing to what you want. It's super common to have group babysitting at the hotel. All your siblings/cousins can pool resources and get a few people to stay a few hours at the hotel and watch the kids. Maybe even have your parents pay for it as part of the wedding fees. If you don't want to go, don't go. But it doesn't seem like you're trying to actually work something out. Yeah, I don't get how child-free wedding translates into I'd have to leave the kids at home. And if OP is going to complain about spending money to bring kids to the location, they'd have to spend that money if the kids were invited. There's really barely any difference. Everyone brings their kids. A couple of cousins or family friends take turns with childcare while the rest go to the wedding. Trust me, as a kid, I hated having to go to weddings. Hanging out at a hotel pool would be so much more appealing to me. Not day hall. People are entitled to a child-free wedding, but they also have to understand that it's not going to be realistic for most people to leave their kids for days, especially young ones. This should have been an anticipated consequence of a child-free wedding. Your sister-in-law shouldn't have to change her child-free wedding, but she also doesn't get to be mad at out-of-state parents for not coming. I can't believe I had to scroll so far to find this comment. An invitation isn't a summon. If not taking your young children isn't a viable option, then you're fully allowed to decline. Not the a-hole. You're the a-hole. First of all, you're not fine with it, so stop saying you are. You're just trying to make yourself feel better. Second, you've now orchestrated a full-on boycott of her wedding, whether intended or not, and you seem to think it's funny. That's cruel. I don't think this is about the kids. I think you just don't like her and won't admit it because it makes you look bad. If you love your brother, you would find a way to be there, period. I have a hard time believing that there's no possible way you can group the kids together with a babysitter for a few hours. Of course you can, but you don't want to. I'd be crushed if I were her, receiving this welcome into the family. Also, she's blaming only her sister-in-law, as if her brother has nothing to do with it. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my sister out after she didn't do what she said she would? I, 21 female, had a baby 8 days ago via scheduled cesarean. Father isn't around, and I knew he wouldn't be since day one. My sister, 29, we'll call her Annie, fake name, is recently divorced and suffers with infertility. Every time there's a new baby in the family, she offers to help out. Annie asked if she could stay with me for a few weeks after the baby is born and for the few days before to help out. I said yes, knowing I'd need help. The problems started from when we came home. Annie takes her, like literally does everything baby-related, except for nappy changes. She creates mess, which I end up having to clean up everything, while trying to cook for myself/order food, and it has to be done to Annie's preference too if I'm ordering. 5 days ago, I started recording the amount of time I spent with my baby versus what Annie did. Over the last 5 days, I spent a total of 8 hours with my baby, Annie nearly all the rest of the time. I tried asking her to step back a bit and help out with chores like she said she would, but she got defensive. Things got on my last nerve today around an hour ago, realizing she hadn't actually given me back my child all day except once to change her. I'm not really sure what got into me, but I lost my cool. I told her to get out and not come back until she can learn to respect that this is not her baby, and stop taking over everything except the gross bits. My mom called me, saying it was a nail move since Annie just wants a baby of her own. And I said that I don't care. I have barely got to see my own child. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, said an outburst was caused by her practically refusing to give me my baby. Now for the top comments. My mom called me, saying it was an a-hole move since Annie just wants a baby of her own. But this baby is not available. It's not hers. It's yours and yours only. If she wants one so badly, she should look into adoption. Absolutely not the a-hole. Exactly, not the a-hole. It is important for you to bond with your baby, not only her. She needed to realize that she couldn't push you around and literally hog your baby. Not the a-hole at all. Tell your mom that what your sister wants is not your problem. You want your baby. Pete's sake. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your sister needs some therapy to deal with her infertility. Or just adopt. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe. Am I the a-hole for telling my insane coworker that she was not victimized by a literal baby? I, 28 female, work with another woman, 33 female, who is extremely pregnant at the moment. She's on maternity leave and is taking time off right now, but she is very dedicated to keeping our entire office keyed into every little detail of her pregnancy. She spams her ultrasounds and updates and baby bump pictures to the office group chat constantly. She also has already had the baby shower and is still requesting more stuff for the baby from us. She treats the baby like it's a child, playing Mozart and playing a math podcast to it so it will come out with a higher IQ. That's why I wasn't surprised when she showed up at the office for Bring Your Kids to Work Day, to make it about her pregnancy even though her kid has yet to be born. She started showing all the children her pregnant belly and telling them about it. My other coworker brought her baby too, who is a boy at 1.5 years old. My pregnant coworker approached him and told him there's a baby inside her, pointing at her stomach. She was wearing a dress. But the boy misunderstood since he is a literal baby and tried to look up her dress to see it. My coworker was shocked and screamed at him and startled him, causing him to start crying and shrieking and to run to his mom. The mom was furious and started yelling at my pregnant coworker that she's a lunatic and saying why is she even here since her kid isn't born yet. My pregnant coworker started screaming back that this is how predators start out and that she's the victim and the baby needs to be controlled. She turned to me for backup, but I told her she's insane thinking she's been victimized by a literal baby. She yelled at me that it's no excuse and that I'm enabling. Both my coworkers were asked to leave by security. I'm pretty sure her reaction to a baby looking up her dress to find the baby was insane, but maybe I'm losing it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He's literally a baby and doesn't understand pregnancy. It was no way sexual, and her saying it was sexually deviant is in itself deviant. Yes, like babies see memories as food. Not the a-hole. A baby has absolutely no understanding of concepts like that. Probably doesn't even understand the concept of private areas yet. They don't even have self-awareness. Your coworker is insane. The pregnant coworker is clearly spending too much time on Reddit. Not the a-hole. It seems like that poor baby was just trying to see the other baby. And what's with the "that's how predators start out" comment she made? A 1.5-year-old baby is not doing anything of a sexual nature. Not the a-hole. Your coworker is interesting, less insane, and more self-centered. If she screams about a toddler looking up her dress, how on earth is she going to handle having a real baby that bites and throws things? I feel bad for her kid. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for mimicking my brother's tantrums to prove my parents treat us differently? My brother is 14 and I'm 15. It's always been really obvious to me that he's the favorite child and my parents treat him differently to me. His room is twice the size of mine. He gets money to go out with his friends and eat. But if I want to go out, I have to use money I saved for my birthday or Christmas or when grandma visits. I get in trouble for things he doesn't get in trouble for. There's higher expectations on me. And if my parents need help with something, it's always me they ask, not him. Stuff like that. I've been trying to explain to them that we get treated differently and they don't agree. They think it's just in my head. I would give them examples like how my brother is always really grumpy and barely speaks to them. But if I'm in a bad mood and barely speak to them for one day, I get in trouble. But they said it's different and got annoyed when I tried to get them to explain why. My brother has been doing this thing lately where he gets annoyed about something. I think it's when he loses in a video game or his game freezes or something, but I'm not sure because it's always in his room. But he starts swearing and slamming his hand on his desk. Then he stomps around house slamming doors for like an hour. This happens maybe once a week. It scares my cat and honestly it scares me too. But my parents just ignore it. He did it yesterday while I was holding the cat. And my arms got shredded because the cat panicked. I asked my mom if she's gonna talk to him about his outbursts, and she said I should just ignore it and he'll grow out of it. So today, I decided I'd test out what happens if I do the exact same thing as him. I waited until the cat was on the other end of the house so I didn't scare him, and I swore and thumped my hand on my desk. I didn't even get to do anything else like slamming doors because my mom got so angry right away and burst into my room and started yelling at me. When she took a breath, I said, "Okay, so now you've practiced with me. You can tell my brother off next time he does it, right?" And she got even more mad and said I need to grow up and stop focusing on my brother so much. and that I should just focus on myself because it's up to my parents to decide how to deal with our behavior, not me. So now I'm grounded for swearing once and thumping my head on my desk once. But my brother does that and then slams doors and stomps around the house like once a week and has never even been told to stop. And still my parents won't admit they treat us differently. My dad even came in later to tell me off all over again for copying my brother just to prove a point. But wouldn't acknowledge I did actually make my point. Just kept saying I was just being immature. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. I think a lot of people are reading too much into this, maybe based on their own experiences and assumptions. My parents are totally fine to be around, except for the fact that they're strict when they think I'm out of line, but not with my brother. We get along fine every other time. Just because they're hypocrites doesn't mean they're psychos. My brother is not autistic. He's just recently gotten anger issues and my parents haven't bothered to do anything about it. He's not even completely dependent on them. Like he cooks his own meals and cleans his own room and does chores just like me. He just gets extra money and a bigger room and doesn't get called out when he's being terrible. Not stay home. But my advice to a 15-year-old in your situation is to conform as much as you can. Get the absolute best grades that you can. The best education you can. And every possible benefit you can out of your parents. Even if it means sucking up. Then get the hell out. So many young people waste their possible advantages fighting about petty things. Listen, kiddo. One day you're on your own. I promise you, your parents suck in so many ways. Are you right? Are you wrong? Yep, it doesn't matter. Take what you can get and get out fast. Listen to this and trust me, your family will suffer through the special snowflake they are raising. They're messing up your brother for life, not being fair to you. Get the best education and use your time wisely for a better future. He will make it difficult for you if you call out their behavior. Good luck. Kid is too young to get it now. But OP, your parents are doing a disservice to your brother. Keep your head down because you need your parents' help to get into a comfortable situation, and compromising your future over petty things like this would be dumb. This is a situation where it doesn't matter if you're right. Do as the Stoics do, and don't try to change something you can't control. The only way you win is by getting a good education, and a good life after you left your home, which you wouldn't want to happen too quickly. I know what you mean. I am the eldest of 5 boys. The smaller kids get treated way better than I ever was. It doesn't matter, because it helps you later on. Not stay home. If your parents don't see the issue now, they probably never will. Sorry to say, but while he will probably get assistance for college, his first apartment, and perhaps wedding, you probably won't. Consider now how you want your life to be. Seriously. Start a game plan and make it happen. Think serious about careers, college, and how much money you want to make. They may not be there for you, so you are all you got, kid. Be financially independent sooner rather than later. I hope you are happy and make a ton of money. Adding, see how soon can you get your own bank account without your parents as co-signers. When you are that age, get one and put all money in there. In the next few years, gather copies of all your important documents. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving a letter on my mom and siblings' grave that hurt the feelings of my blended family? When I was 7, I lost my mom and twin siblings. She was 7 months pregnant with them at the time. And all I knew back then was she went to the hospital. And 2 weeks later, I was told she wasn't coming home and the babies wouldn't be either. My dad met his second wife, Nora, 7 months later. She was a widow with a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. They fell in love fast and decided we should be a family through adoption. I didn't want to be adopted, and said so and asked. They told me it would mean so much to everyone and would be good for me, because I would be able to stay if something happened to my dad. So I agreed to it, but was never actually on board. They call themselves my parents. She introduced herself as my mom, and my step-sibling said we were just siblings. I fluctuated a lot, and was put into therapy to try and remove the step permanently. But the feeling was never there. I missed my mom and my siblings. Nor did my step-siblings never meant the same to me or as much. I never wanted to be a prick about it though. It was the 10th anniversary recently, and I went to the grave and placed a note on there basically saying how much I missed them, how I wish I had a chance to be the twins' big sister, and nothing was ever the same without them or mom. How much her loss still impacted me and I would give anything to have them back. Since nobody but me really visits the grave anymore, I didn't see the issue with it. But then my dad took the kids and they read the note. Pretty much everything imploded on itself. Nora asked me did I regret the adoption, and I said yes. My dad asked how I could write something that would crush Nora and the kids, because the note made it pretty clear he said to anyone who read it that I considered my mom and the twins my only mom and siblings, that even without being stated directly it was clear. I told him I did not expect them to see it, that nobody else had visited the grave in 4 years. He told me it wasn't an excuse because I still left it there, but I also feel that way after close to a decade. And imagine how painful it is for them to realize they love someone who never returned it, who never wanted it, even though everybody else has been happy. Nora told me I need to consider whether I'm going to work on moving past this and embracing them fully the way they've embraced me, or whether we're going our separate way as soon as I turn 18. Dad said they will pay for therapy if I am willing to love and accept them as my mom and siblings the way they deserve. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry for your loss, and the way your dad and stepmom have steamrolled over things. You were 7. Out of nowhere, you were told your world had changed. I wonder if you actually got enough time, space, and support to process this? You left a letter for your mom and sibs. No one else had a right to read it, much less take offense. From what you say, you weren't saying anything against them. And now you are being threatened with being kicked out at 18 if you don't come around? Take up the therapy if you can. But they should have learned a long time ago that love is grown, not forced, and that the heart expands. Loving is not a zero-sum game. And they should stop being offended that you have room to love your mom and siblings still too. I would say no. It was all very confusing for me and very fast. But I don't know if Dad would have been able to go any slower and do the best for him. It comes down to he made the choice. He made to try and be the best dadded person for me, which I get. It was right for him in the end, but for me? Probably not. Not stay home. I'm trying to wrap my brain around removing a note from a grave and then confronting the person who wrote it. It wasn't for the person who lifted it. If you wanted them to know those things, you'd tell them. What did your dad hope to find? A letter saying how you're so happy with your new and approved family? How could he not lose your trust regardless of the letter's contents? I also think there is a level of erasure going on here. Your dad wants his new woman to replace your mother, and that's just not a healthy thing to do, even if it makes his choices feel good. Your stepmom cannot be your actual mother. She can work to fill the role in every way and earn your love/affection over time, but this isn't the kind of thing you go to therapy for. A therapist isn't going to say, love this woman like she deserves or something. It's not how therapy works. Hell, I'd take them up on the offer. Tell the therapist this is the outcome you are being punished until you achieve. See how fast the therapist corrects them. I think it was less erasure because we used to all visit both graves. But I think what happened was they thought it could be the same, equal, and could make everything better for me the way it did for them. If the younger kids could grow up not feeling like they missed out, then I could too. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they don't get to put their feelings first in this and they aren't the only ones struggling? 8 months ago, my sister found out she was not our mom's bi kid. Our dad was married to her bi mom, and her mom died soon after she was born. Dad met mom when she was 13 months old, and mom adopted her and they decided to raise her believing she was mom's kid. They cut out her grandparents and extended family because they wouldn't go along with being just family acquaintances. My sister told me they were in her life for a while, but once Dad met mom, they wanted no other mom in my sister's mind. So they decided they couldn't be grandparents or aunts and uncles either. It all had to be just like general people, not family. Grandparents' rights weren't a thing in our state at the time, and so they could just shut them out and act like they never existed. The only kind of hint we ever had looking back is when my sister needed her birth certificate for something when we were kids, and we were not allowed to help look. Our parents were actually mad at us for trying to help. At the time, it was weird, but we didn't think about it too hard. Looking back now, it is more clear. My sister found out when her cousin tracked her down on Facebook and made contact. It was a whirlwind. She was hurt, mad, felt betrayed, and questioned how she could deal with the news. She ended up making contact with her mom's family, and it's been going really well. Now, she and our parents fight a lot. They wanted her to make no contact. They said it wasn't fair on mom who raised and loved her. It is her real mom, and that she didn't need those people. It got nasty. My parents keep talking about how much they're struggling with us, and how hurt they are she reached out to them. I snapped the other day, and told them their feelings don't get to go first here. Hers do, because she's the one who found out this big secret. I also told them we both find it weird too.
My sister has a whole family I'm not part of, and she's learning to come to terms with the fact there was a woman who loved her so goddamn much, and our dad and mom just completely, utterly erased her and everyone else from her life who could have loved her too. My parents told me I was cold and uncaring towards them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Good on you for defending your sister and giving her one person to lean on. This was seriously one of my biggest nightmares when my kids were little. That something would happen to me. My husband would remarry, and I'd be completely erased. I remember my husband swearing to me that if anything happened to me, that my babies would always know who I was, and that he'd ensure my memory stayed alive. I don't know how Opie's dad can live with himself. He not only completely erased his daughter's mother, but also cut off this poor dead woman's parents and siblings from her daughter in such an utterly cruel and callous way. Opie's father is beyond the a-hole. His behavior was downright evil in my opinion. Not the a-hole. They are absolutely unhinged. They lied to both of you and caused all this upset. They deserve to be suffering as a consequence of their terrible actions. Opie lost out too. It is possible that her sister's family would have welcomed Opie into their lives and hearts as well. Even if they hadn't, it still would have been good for my sister. This pain she knows now wouldn't exist. Maybe a different kind of pain would be there, but at least it wouldn't be pain built on deceit.